Alright guys, so in this video, it's finally time to take a look at the volume footprint chart. And in my personal opinion, the volume footprint is one of the best and one of the most powerful chart types in TradingView. So in today's video, I will show you guys in a step-by-step manner. First of all, how do we find and open up the volume footprint? We will also, of course, take a look at how do we read and understand the volume footprint. But we are not going to stop there, because I will also show you guys in a step-by-step manner the best settings, or at least in my opinion, the best settings for both beginners and more advanced traders. And last but not least, guys, we are going to take a look at some trading strategies, how you can actually use the volume footprint yourself. But all right, so let's get started right away here. All right, so the very first thing you want to do is that you want to open up a clean chart in TradingView. And as you can notice, right now I'm pretty zoomed in on the chart. And I recommend, if you want to be able to use the volume footprint effectively, I recommend to actually have a pretty zoomed in chart, more zoomed in than in general. But I will talk all about that later. What I also can mention already is that the volume footprints works on all time frames. As you can see right now, I'm looking at Bitcoin. You can see up here, I'm looking at Bitcoin, and I'm on the daily time frame. But you can use this one on the 1 hour, 15 minute, it doesn't really matter. However, what I do recommend is that you actually use a market that has sufficient liquidity. So you want to have a market which has a lot of trading. If you have a very small altcoin or something like that, the volume footprints can be a little bit more misleading. And now to open up the volume footprint chart, you want to go up here to where it says candles. If you're using a candlestick chart, so you press right here. And then you want to go down to where it says volume footprint and click right here. And as you can see, guys, just like that, our volume footprint has appeared on the chart. Now, and this is very important, if you are not able to open up the volume footprint, it's probably because you have a TradingView plan that does not support the volume footprint chart. And as I'm recording this video, I think volume footprint is only available for TradingView Premium, or maybe it was essential, but personally I'm using TradingView Premium. But guys, luckily here, if you want to try out TradingView Premium for free for 30 days, I actually have a special link for that. And I will make sure to leave the link both in the top of the description as well as the pinned comment. So make sure to use it so you can follow along in this video. But all right, so now then, what does the volume footprint chart actually measure, and how do we read volume footprint? And in very simple terms, the volume footprint simply measures buying and selling volume. So what you will be able to see is that now for each candle, so for example, this massive green candle right here, we have one sort of red bar to the left, and we also have a green bar here to the right. So for every single candle on this chart, we have both a red bar and a green bar. And the green bar is measuring buying volume, and the red bar is measuring selling volume. And remember, because we are currently on the daily time frame, it means that each bar here represents the buying and selling volume within the same day. And I recommend to think about the buying and selling volume as buying and selling pressure. But to really make sure that we understand the difference between buying and selling volume, I do think that this image right here can help a lot. This image right here is an image of a bid-ask spread. And this is just an example. This is probably Bitcoin back when we were at $100,000. But you can see that the green side here is what we call the bid side, and this right here is buyers that want to buy Bitcoin. You can see to the right here, you can see how many Bitcoin buyers want to buy and at what price. So we have the bid side, which is the buyers, and we have the ask side, which is the sellers. And what we mean by buying volume is basically when a buyer buys from the selling side, because this will push the price up. And what we mean by selling volume is when a seller decides to sell to the buy side, because this pushes the price down. I know in the beginning this can be a little bit hard to understand, but I hope that this image makes you understand a bit better, you know, what drives the market. Are the sellers taking from the buy side, or are the buyers taking from the sell side? This is an easy way to think about buying and selling volume. But alright, so now when we have at least a basic understanding of selling and buying volume, now let's take a look at step by step how to read the volume footprint. And let's actually begin here by taking a look at sort of this block right here. What you hopefully can see, first of all, you see that on the red box, it says 976. That means that we had 976 in selling volume at this price area. So when the price was right here. And it also says 1.07K here, the green part, which means that we had around almost 1.1 thousand buying volume. So when the price was in this area, we actually had more buying pressure compared to selling pressure. And this right here is a bullish sign for that specific area. So for each of these sort of blocks here, you can read the buying and selling pressure. So for example, for this specific candle, you can see that on this block, we had more buying volume compared to selling volume. On this block, we also had more buying volume compared to selling volume. And you can see that, no surprise, during this candle, we actually saw a massive price increase for Bitcoin. The next thing we need to understand, and now I want you guys to shift the attention to the sort of white boxes that are below each candle. You can see that we have a total and we have something called delta, and delta will be very important to understand for later in this video, but let's begin here what total means. Total is very simple. That is the total amount of volume during that candle. So when we're looking at Bitcoin, we're talking about the total amount of Bitcoin traded. If you look at a stock, we're talking about the total amount of that particular stock traded, and so on and so on. But the delta here is, in simple terms, the difference between the buying volume and selling volume. So if we have a green delta, it means that during that candle, we had more buying volume compared to selling volume, which is a bullish sign. And if we had a red delta, like for example, this previous candle, you can see that this previous candle was actually a green candle, but a red delta. That means that even though the price went up during that candle, we had a little bit more of selling volume. And that is actually possible. And that is important to know when you are later going to use the volume footprint to analyze charts. The next concept we need to understand is something called point of control, or for short, POC. And point of control is much more simple than it sounds. The POC is simply the area where most volume got traded. And this is marked by a black window right here. So you can see for this green candle, the point of control was right here. For this red candle, the point of control was right here. You can see all of these black boxes are where most volume got traded during that particular candle. Another concept you need to understand is something called the value area. And it's very hard to see on my chart right now. I'm not sure you guys can see this, but we have a slight black arrow right here, and we have a slight black arrow down here. And between these two arrows, so this whole area right here for the green candle, this is known as the value area. And in this area, 70% of the total volume in that candle got traded in this area. And the upper limit of this area is known as the value area high, or for short, VAH. And the lower limit of this area is known as the value area low, or for short, the VAL. But alright guys, so at this point you know how to find the volume footprint, and now you also know how to actually read the volume footprint. We know that we're talking about buying volume or selling volume, or in other words, we're talking about buying pressure and selling pressure. And you also know about what the different numbers actually mean. So now guys, we are actually ready to change a few settings. And to change the settings of the volume footprint, you actually want to right click anywhere on the chart, and then you want to navigate down right here to where it says settings. So we actually need to change the chart settings right here. Then you want to go up to where it says symbol, just scroll down a bit, and as you can see we have the volume footprint settings right here. And the very first setting I want to take a look at is the row size right here, and you can see that the standard setting is auto. And for this setting, I actually recommend to keep it at auto, because what the row size basically does is that it decides how many of these bars. You can see, for example, right here we have 1, 2, 3 bars, and the row size basically decides how many of these rows we need to have. And when we have this one on auto, the row size will actually depend on the ATR. And if you have been following our channel for a while, you might already know about the ATR. The ATR stands for average true range, and is basically a measurement of volatility. So here you can actually change the ATR length. The standard here is 14, which means that we are looking back on 14 candles in the past to decide how many rows we need to have. So if we change the ATR length, let's say we want to change it all the way up to 100. I don't recommend to do this. I just want to show you guys what happens on the chart. So if we press 100 right here, you will see that the rows, the amount of rows here will change. And for some traders, you might actually want to have more of these rows. But what I highly recommend here is to just for now keep it at 14, keep it simple. 14 is the standard length for the ATR, and I think most traders use 14, so just keep 14 for now. However, next, and this is very important, you see that we have a setting called type. And this one I actually recommend to change. You can see that the standard type here is that we see it's buy and sell, which means that we see both the buy side and the sell side. But remember here what we talked about earlier in the video. The delta here is basically the difference between buyers and sellers. So if we choose the delta instead of buy and sell, and let me actually show you guys, let's go down here and press OK. You can see that now instead of having 2 rows, we only have 1 row that tells us the delta. And I think that this settings is much easier to read. Because now we don't have to look at 2 numbers, we only have to look at 1 number, and we can actually see if the buyers or the sellers are in control by simply looking at the delta numbers here. So for example, to understand this, if it says 108, it means that we had 108 more buying volume compared to selling volume. So you can, for example, see that for pretty much this whole green candle, the buyers were in full control. It was a bit shaky for a while down here with 36, but the buyers were in full control. And now, if you want more information, you can look at these numbers below the candles to get the total buy, the total sell, and of course the total delta as well. So yeah guys, let's go back here to the settings. As I said, I actually recommend this setting for beginners. You can also choose total right here, then you just see the total volume. But if we use this, we kind of lose the purpose a bit behind this chart type. So we can also have one called ladder here. But as I said, I personally prefer delta. Feel free guys, if you want to experiment with different settings to find what works best for you, of course, but I'm gonna choose delta right here. What you also can do is to change the value area. Remember, I talked about this earlier in the video, that the value area is where 70% of the volume is traded. But if you for some reason want the value area to display where 50% of the volume was traded, you can of course choose that as well. But I recommend actually to just stick with 70% on the value area. You can also choose if you want to have the point of control or not. What I probably actually recommend, or this is pretty much 50-50, if you like to display the point of control, which remember is the area where most volume got traded, you can keep the point of control. But the problem with using point of control when we have the delta is that we can't really see with, it's not as obvious if we're talking about buying or selling volume. You can see that, you know, because these sort of rows are black, it can be a bit hard to see if there are buying or selling volume. You can of course see this by taking a look at the minus sign before. But if you prefer, let me go back here to the settings once again. If you actually prefer to be able to see this more easily, you can uncheck the point of control and then it will look like this instead. This right here is definitely a viable option in my opinion, but I'm going to keep the point of control. You also have something called imbalance here, and this, I actually think I will not talk about this in this video. It's a bit outside the scope and will make the video a bit too long. But if you guys want to, if you want me to make a video where I go even more in depth into volume footprint in the future, just let me know guys down in the comments. That's definitely something I'm excited to do. But I think that this settings are good for now, so we're ready to go down here and press OK. But alright, so now we are finally ready to take a look at how to actually use volume footprint charts to trade here. And when it comes to trading with volume footprint, there are a few important principles you need to understand. And I would say that the most important principle here is that when we see a move happening, so when we see some kind of price action, and at the same time, when we have lots of volume in the same direction, then that makes the signal even stronger. So for example, if we have a move towards the upside, so if we have a bullish move and we also have lots of bullish volume, that it makes the bullish move even stronger, right? And if we have a bearish move and we have lots of bearish volume, that makes the move you know, also stronger. But if we have, let's say, a bullish move, but that the volume is bearish, then that makes the move a bit more shaky, a bit more complicated. So this is the sort of general main principle that you can use for volume footprint. There are just so many more strategies and you can dive very deep into this, but this is the sort of, at least in my personal opinion, the main thing about volume footprint. And what you also need to know is that just like with most you know, indicators, volume footprint is actually best used together with other things like price action, but also like market structure. So for example, in this example, we're looking at Bitcoin. This is a historical example of Bitcoin, very, very clear example, because as you can see, Bitcoin struggled with a price area for so many times. You can see we got rejected 1 time, 2 time, 3 time, 4 time. So many times we got rejected at this area. But here, so here we have some market structure. We have a clear resistance level that the price struggled with for so long. But now we can actually zoom in here and take a look at, you know, how did the volume footprint react when we tested this area. As you guys can see here, we had a clear reaction. The price once again failed to break the resistance. But if you guys are familiar with market structure, one thing you know is that higher lows into resistance actually indicates a potential breakout. So we had one low, higher low, higher low. This is exactly the kind of signs we want to look out for before breakouts. But now, and now is where it gets very interesting. Remember what I said before. When we see a bullish move, what we're looking out for is that we want to see bullish volume. We want to see buying volume or buying pressure. And if you take a close look at this breakout, you can first see that this whole candle right here had bullish volume except for one specific point. You can see at this specific point, you had many sellers trying to sell. And you might wonder, you know, why could this happen? Well, if you know the principles about support and resistance, you know that many sellers probably tried to actually defend this resistance, right? However, and this is very, very key, we can see that the resistance eventually failed, and what you then saw with the volume is so bullish. You saw that right here we had lots of more bullish volume, and the price pushed even higher, and the bulls were still in control. So when we have a bullish move and we also have buying volume supporting that bullish move, which in this case was a breakout, it makes the breakout even stronger and more likely to succeed. And here, last but not least, I actually want to go back to the chart we started with, because remember what I also said, that if we have a bearish move, right, a move towards the downside, but we have bullish volume, that makes the move less likely to succeed. And if you take a close look at this recent move for Bitcoin, this was, by the way, a beautiful hammer candle. But you can see here that the sellers tried to push the price down, right? But it was not really the bears in control. Yes, at some points the bears were in control here, but you can also see that the bulls quickly took control over the volume. The point of control here was actually bullish volume, and this eventually led to the price pushing up. So we had bearish price action, but we had bullish volume. So that is sort of a divergence between the price action and the volume, making the move less likely to succeed. And we can see that after this, the Bitcoin price has been recovering good. But alright guys, so thank you so much for watching. And if you guys want to dive deeper into volume, I highly recommend to check out my full volume course here on the channel. I hope I will see you all over there. But for now, take care. Ciao, ciao.